All right, so my name is Tyler Dennis, and today I'm going to be doing a podcast on ecology and human impacts. There are several topics. So the first one is right here. So the first one is the carbon cycle, and in the carbon cycle, as you can see in the carbon cycle, the sunlight provides the energy for photosynthesis, which takes CO2 and puts out oxygen, and that goes around and that creates dead waste in organisms. And animal respiration puts methane back into the carbon cycle, and the carbon in it recycles. And plant respiration also releases CO2 when they use the mitochondria, but they also use photosynthesis. And auto and factory emissions, they release not that they release CO2, carbon monoxide, and several other carbon-based molecules that go into the CO2 cycle or into the atmosphere. So, as for global warming, stuff that we do, such as deforestation or like burning wood or using chlorofluorocarbons, which destroy the ozone layer, oil and petrol engines, they all release chemicals that go up and they don't come back down to the surface because we're creating them at such a rate. And the sunlight comes into our atmosphere through the ozone layer, and when it goes to reflect like it usually does, the heat from it is trapped by those chemicals. So our Earth slowly warms because it keeps getting warmer by net gain. So here is acid rain. So for example, factories, they release, I see sulfur dioxide and other things. I believe that might be hydrogen gas right there. Not completely sure though. And basically, those things are released into the atmosphere and they mix with rain clouds. The particles do, and when they rain down, they're harmful to the organisms they touch, such as plants. They get in the soil and they create long-term poisoning. They can destroy crops. And since they're mostly near cities, in cities when they rain down, they actually erode concrete and cement. So this is biological magnification, which is where DDT enters the oh gosh the ecosystem and enters in smaller plants, the producers. And even though the producers have a non lethal amount in them, as primary consumers, such as some types of fish start eating them, they don't break down those toxins. So slowly, the more it becomes built up. So the higher up on the food web you get, the more concentrated it is, until you get up to something. I don't believe there's a picture of bald eagle right here, but back in the 70s, bald eagles were eating salmon, or actually it was trout that had DDT in them, and it was making their eggshells really thin. So when their eggshells would roll, they would crack, and baby eagles were having a hard time surviving inside their eggs. So basically, that works with pretty much all toxins. They slowly build up. That's kind of how food poisoning works with chemicals. So as for ozone depletion, the sunlight comes in through the ozone layer and it absorbs most of it, but there's a bit that comes in. That's the UV rays that we have, like when we're out at the beach, that can burn us, or ones that can even lead to skin issues, like skin cancer. I think carcinoma. I can't remember the name of it, but basically, as we release chlorofluorocarbons, they react with the ozone layer, and without the ozone layer, more of those UV rays come in, and they're more harmful to us, and the Earth heats up faster. So that contributes to global warming, and it leads to more volatile conditions from sun energy. So this is the impacts of introduced species. Basically, introduced species, since they don't belong in the food web, they essentially cause a disruption in it. So they'll cause so they'll cause an issue, like, so they either replace something or they compete with it and end up messing up the flow of like the food chain. So for example, the Japanese knotweed, it tears up concrete and wipes value off of homes. That doesn't really disrupt the food chain, but it affects humans, and they were not supposed to really be introduced. And the gray squirrel on the left, pictured right here, It sent red squirrels into decline after their introduction in 1876 in, I believe, the Americas. They didn't belong there, and they started competing, and they outcompeted the red squirrels, and really just took over and really just took their role and forced the other ones into having to go somewhere else. So the killer shrimp you see right here on the right, it eats native shrimp, and I believe this is in the Caspian Sea, and even some fish, and it spreads into the south, and it can end up causing a lot of issues because humans depend on a lot of those on a lot of the sources of food like shrimp and fish. So when killer shrimp are eating them, it destroys food sources for humans. So for oak processionary moth, it's a caterpillar. The toxic hairs cause breathing problems, so that could affect not just humans but any animals with lungs. And it's spread from oak trees in Europe, and that just really disrupts the whole food web. Not that it outcompetes anyone, it just flat out harms everyone. So the zebra mussel on the left clogs up waterworks, costing millions to remove, which can affect humans getting water supplies, and can cost humans more. And as for the Asian hornet on the right, it grows to 2 inches long, which is very large for any insect, and it killed 6 people in France and could soon reach the UK. And it's very dangerous, and it comes in and it affects all types of organisms from humans to anything that disturbs it. A horse. They're very disruptive to the food chain, and I believe that's all. That is. And how do you stop this?